It's a great pleasure to introduce what I believe is the best representative that anybody could have. A representative essentially should be a strong, reliable spokesperson for the people in his district. And I've known Pete for several years now. Just a little bit about his record. You know, we write him letters on a regular basis, and he's always willing to listen and learn. And he uses the Constitution as his guide. He is the only member of the legislature in Magic Valley that was willing to take a stand with others in the state to say, no, we don't want any part of this health care exchange that the president is pushing upon us. The court said it was an option, and he stood up and voted no. And the governor, in my opinion, wasn't really happy with that, and that's why he has an opponent. But he is ranked between number 7 and number 10, and I'll let him tell you, conservative in the state of Idaho. He just blows our other senators and representatives in this valley away because he is guided by the Constitution. The Republican Liberty Caucus of Idaho endorsed his candidacy, and also the Idaho Chooses Life has endorsed his candidacy for his protection of people's right to life. But at this time, let's just give a warm welcome to our representative and spokesperson in Boise, Representative Pete Nielsen.
Thank you. I hope I can measure up. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be able to talk to you, and I'd like to thank Rich. And where did the sweet lady go?
She's out.
Oh, Christine. Folks, I don't know quite where to start. But if you got a question that's burning inside of you and you want to start with that, we'll start with that. But
Pete, get back so we can get you on the mic there.
We got a mic right behind you.
Yeah, well, in that area, yeah.
all right. Can I lower that down a little bit? I like to see over it. Thank you. I will try to be not real boisterous. At a forum we had over at Murphy a couple of weeks ago, it was commented to me that I could make my point without a sledgehammer. So I'll try to be that way today, but I'm very passionate about what I believe in. And this flyer and I'll start with this flyer. This is in the Buell Herald this week. This is also received by folks who voted 2 years ago in my district, District 23. They should have received one of these in the mail. And it will be sent out again. Now, just to give you some idea of what we're talking about here. Yes, I voted against the health insurance exchange, and I will do it again. The Supreme Court made a ruling and didn't out and out say it was a constitutional law, but they did say that the means of the fees and that was a tax. I believe I understood that. And they also said this. One, I think it was Scalia, I don't remember which Supreme Court judge it was, but he said, we're talking about two sovereign issues here, not issues, two sovereign states. The one being the federal government is sovereign, and so are the states sovereign. And guess what he said after that? He said the states ought to start acting like it. Now, I'll tell you how that worked with the state health insurance exchange. I was against that, and the big argument was, well, they're going to the federal government will create a federal health insurance exchange. I said, fine, let them do that. You can't stop the feds from doing that, but guess what we could do? 2 years previous to that in Idaho, we passed a law stating this because we knew Obamacare had been passed, etc. And the law passed in Idaho simply said this: any Idaho citizen who doesn't want to belong to Obamacare and their health insurance ideas did not have to do it. And that was state law. They didn't have to do it. Well, when we passed the health insurance exchange, how enforceable is that law? Now, what's wrong with a state health insurance exchange is this. In the ruling of Richard Mack versus, that case where, I can't remember but anyhow, the sheriff could be arrested and charged with a felony if he didn't go out and collect the guns in certain instances. I think it was Brady, on the Brady deal. And Richard Mack took that to the United States Supreme Court. And what the Supreme Court said was this: the federal government cannot commandeer the states to enforce their laws or do their bidding. Okay. With that in mind, and the fact that we're sovereign and the federal government's sovereign, okay, let the federal government spend the money to create the federal health insurance exchange in Idaho. Guess what? They can't commandeer the state to enforce anything inside that health insurance exchange because of what was ruled in the Brady case. And then in addition to that, they also said this: you're a sovereign state, you ought to start acting like it. But when you crawl in bed and create the state health insurance exchange with whose money? The law was passed in Idaho. Yes, we're going to create a state health insurance exchange, but it'll only be done with federal money. Now, at first, the feds didn't come forward with enough money to get the ball rolling. Guess where the money come from? It come from the Health and Welfare Department, from the Child's Health Insurance Program. They had extra money there, and so there was well over, right around $300,000 they started that with. Well, since those days, the federal government has paid back that money. But what we did when we decided we'd take the federal money to create an Idaho health insurance exchange, we agreed to enforce the laws that we wouldn't have had to enforce if the federal had to do it themselves. We crawled in bed with them. And that's where we're at. This last year, guess what? There was a bill brought forward by Lenore Barrett from up in Chalice. She beat me by 2 days, so I said, go with it, and we signed on. We had all members of leadership in the House co-sign on that bill. I've got a copy of it out in the car. Many of us representatives co-signed against, and even several chairmen inside the Republican Party voted to go on as co-sponsors of this bill and have that Idaho health insurance exchange law repealed. Guess what? It got printed, and that was the end of it. And I know who was sitting on the health insurance committee. Fred Wood from Burley being the chairman. The people that were on that committee, there was no way, even with the hearing, and when the bill's printed, that means it's printed and it's out on the internet and everybody can take a look at it and see who's involved in the whole ball of wax. The only reason they didn't have a hearing, because if they'd have had a hearing, it never would have got out of that committee anyhow, because I know who sits on that committee and they all voted for it, etc. The only reason that I can figure out why they didn't have a hearing on that bill was they didn't want you to be able to come and testify. And until there's a hearing on a bill after it's been printed, you don't get a chance to come and testify because there's no hearing. And it wouldn't have got out of there anyhow. The only thing I can figure out is they did not want to give you opportunity to raise a ruckus that you could have raised by coming to the hearing, explaining your feelings, and doing those types of things. The only reason. Couldn't be anything else. And that's wrong. And I'm totally against it, and I'll remain against it. Why? Because it's not the proper role of government.